Was the president serious or was he joking this weekend when he said he might block a Washington Commanders stadium deal if they don't change their name?
The president was serious.
Is Donald Trump finally taking his war on woke too far? We're going to break this down and so much more in today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast, my daily show where we talk about the craziest things from across the internet, our media, and our politics, all from an independent perspective. Up first, we're going to talk about an interesting battle that Donald Trump, the current president of the United States, has decided to pick, this time with the Washington Commanders, formerly known as the Washington Redskins. And then they were, pressured by corporate America and by Democrats to change their name because it was offensive and problematic as part of one of the dumber cultural moments that we lived through in 2020, where everyone was policing names and logos as if that was going to change the world, or as if these things were so harmful to people. In reality, a Washington Post poll in 2016 found that 90% of Native American respondents were not offended by the name Redskins. And of course, that wasn't actually an issue harming anyone in any real or tangible way. But we lived through this dumb time in America where Aunt Jemima had to be axed off the syrup bottle as if that was going to help Black people somehow. They had to get that Native American woman off the Land O'Lakes butter thing. And this was somehow seriously viewed as a form of progress rather than petty, ridiculous, and a waste of time as it always was. But can you wind back the clock? Can you take us back to the time before some of that stuff happened? Well, at least as far as the Washington Commanders are concerned, Trump is trying to do that, leveraging his power as president to force them to bring back their old name, the offensive name, the Redskins. Here's a couple Truth Social posts that Trump put out over the last couple days that have sparked a bit of a firestorm. He wrote, "The Washington whatevers should immediately change their name back to the Washington Redskins football team. There is a big clamoring for this. Our great Indian people in massive numbers want this to happen. Their heritage and prestige is systematically being taken away from them. Times are different now than they were 3 or 4 years ago. We are a country of passion and common sense. Owners, get it done." So I had a couple questions about this post when I saw it. Is there a big clamoring for this? I don't know. Is there really widespread support among Native American or Indian people for this? I also don't know. I don't know. So he doesn't cite a source for that. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but I did raise an eyebrow at it. But so far, sure, bring it back. I don't care. I think that's fine. Here's the next post, though, where Trump starts to lose me. "My statement on the Washington Redskins has totally blown up, but only in a very positive way. I may put a restriction on them that if they don't change their name back to the original Washington Redskins and get rid of the ridiculous moniker Washington Commanders, I won't make a deal for them to build a stadium in Washington. The team would be much more valuable, and the deal would be more exciting for everyone." And then at the end of this post, Trump writes, "Indians are being treated very unfairly. Make Indians great again. MEGA! Exclamation mark. Wow. So, interesting post. A lot to unpack. But guys, this is not a joke. This is not trolling. This is a evidently serious policy position the president is considering taking. Here is White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt.
Was the president serious or was he joking this weekend when he said he might block a Washington Commanders stadium deal if they don't change their name?
The president was serious, and as part of the art of the deal, part of his negotiating skills, as you know, sports is one of the many passions of this president, and he wants to see the name of that team changed.
Why is he getting involved in that? Why does he see that as part of his purview?
I think you've seen the president gets involved in a lot of things that most presidents have not. He's a non-traditional president. He likes to see results on behalf of the American people. And if you actually poll this issue with sports fans across the country and even in this city, people actually do support the president's position on this and the name change.
Now, guys, I'm going to uncover a couple of key aspects of this for you that might change the way you're thinking about it. after this. It increasingly seems like culture war stories are at the heart of our politics, but these are the exact stories where it can be hardest to figure out what's actually going on. Media spin and partisan bias aside. The only way to figure out what's really going on is with Ground News, an amazing service I've used for years that helps me prepare this show. Ground News gathers news all around the world in one place, so you can see what both sides are saying and make up your own mind. Take California's ongoing feud with the Trump administration over transgender athletes in women's sports, for example. If you look at the left-leaning headlines that Ground News has aggregated, they read, for example, this one from the San Francisco Chronicle, California won't comply with Trump demand for state to ban trans athletes. But if you look at right-leaning media, like this report from the Daily Signal, California defies Trump again as state refuses to follow trans athlete order. There's a big difference there. And if you don't take my word for it, the Nobel Peace Center even called Ground News an amazing way to stay informed, avoid echo chambers, and expand your worldview. Plus, it's been recognized by Apple as App of the Day 5 times across 38 countries. Stop missing out. You can get the same plan that I use, which is the Vantage subscription, by going to the link on screen, ground.news/Brad, or by scanning the QR code on screen to get 40% off your access, which comes out to just about $5 a month. This exclusive discount is available through my link, so act now to burst your media bubble and keep your critical thinking skills sharp. So my critique here is pretty simple. I have no real problem with bringing back the name the Redskins if the team wants to, if the owners want to, if the fans want it back. I don't really subscribe to the notion that it was ever really harmful or doing anything meaningful to disadvantage or harm Native American people. But I do not think the president really should be weighing in on this at all. And of course, I mean, if he wants to just give his opinion, that's one thing. But the president leveraging the power of the state, threatening to block their stadium deal if a private company doesn't rename itself, to me is a massive overreach, to me is an abuse of power, and to me threatens the First Amendment, because they have every right to call themselves whatever they want. They don't have to change their name back, and the president shouldn't be using the state's power to essentially blackmail or coerce them into doing so. To me, that's a alarming precedent. It's an overreach. It's not the proper role of government or something the feds should be focused on right now, of all things going on in our country. That said, I think the strongest defense for what Trump is doing is that Democrats essentially did the same thing several years ago. Senators wrote letters imploring them to change their name. Members of Congress threatened their tax-exempt status if they didn't change their name. And the mayor of D.C., Muriel Bowser, even suggested that she too would seek to block their stadium deal if they didn't change their name, which they ultimately did. So this wasn't exactly a decision they made freely of their own will. There was coercion involved on the other side, which I objected to at the time and object to now as an unjust government pressure campaign. But some would say that Trump is justified in doing this in return because he's just playing by the rules the Democrats established. Here is conservative radio host Eric Erickson, who is significantly more right-wing than me, but I like him. I respect his opinion. Here's his take on that.
I don't think the president of the United States of America should be bullying anyone about their name. The business chose the Commanders. And I don't think it's the business of the president of the United States to tell the Commanders or the Indians to change their name or else. But I didn't think it was the business of the president of the United States to tell the Indians and the Redskins to change their names, and the Democrats were insistent it was their business. All Donald Trump is doing is give them a taste of their own medicine. I didn't like it when the Democrats did it. I don't like it when Donald Trump's doing it. But if you can't see that the Democrats started the precedent, I'm sorry, they started it. Trump's just elevating the precedent and turning it in on them, because the left thought they were culturally dominant after George Floyd, and they started doing maximum bully pressure, and now Donald Trump is in the driver's seat in large part because of all the left's bullying. So all I can do is sit back and say, hey, I don't think either side should have done it, but I'm laughing my butt off at Donald Trump turning on you what you thought could not be turned on you because you thought you had maximum cultural clout.
I think Republicans have a point here about the hypocrisy. They absolutely do. But I don't really accept the argument that because Democrats did something that is wrong, that is unconstitutional, that is a violation of American businesses' rights to name themselves, to call themselves what they like, to be free from coercion, that Republicans should just double down and do the same thing. To me, it's kind of an idea of two wrongs don't make a right. And we shouldn't lower ourselves to bad standards that other people set. It's called taking the high road. It's called doing the right thing, not this turnabout is fair play kind of mindset that some on the MAGA side have. I just don't agree with it. I think that when you fight fire with fire, you don't put out a fire. You just burn the whole house down. And in this case, that house is our Constitution. It's our First Amendment. It's our free speech. So if the Trump administration is like, well, Democrats have done anti-free speech things, so we should do them too and do them harder. That is not a good recipe for our country. That's not something you can do if you believe in those values either. And I don't think that it's at all worth it to die on this hill and to coerce a private business, to threaten the First Amendment like this. Because imagine this, right? If Trump actually did this, if he followed through on this threat and he set this precedent that we're going to leverage your stadium deal, which he has otherwise effusively praised, though I actually object to it on other grounds, which we will get to, then a future Democratic president could literally coerce any business with an offensive or problematic name to change its name or risk whatever federal benefit they want to condition it. That is not how government power is supposed to be used, to punish people's freedom of speech. And I object to it, whether it was Democrats doing it back then or Trump doing it now. What's bizarre to me is that I actually think Trump should block the stadium deal if he has the power to do so, but not at all for this reason, for economic reasons, for policy reasons. Yet Trump seems to think this stadium deal is a good idea. At the time when it was originally announced, he said that it was a huge win for Washington, D.C., and for the team's incredible fan base that would boost economic development, create more jobs, and hopefully lead to less crime in the area. But I really doubt that that's true. I think this stadium deal is actually an example of crony capitalism, where they're trying to give out massive taxpayer subsidies to an NFL team in promises of economic benefits that very rarely actually materialize. Billy Binion of Reason magazine did some reporting about this. He wrote that Trump should kill Commander's stadium deal, but not because of the team's name. He explains that the current deal would give $1 billion of district taxpayers' money to the sports team for their new stadium, even though their owner is worth 10 times that amount. He further explains that under this deal, the district will own the site and lease it to the team, but the way that these deals are written, the owner of the stadium gets to keep all the revenue and avoid all the taxes, according to Kennesaw State University professor J.C. Bradbury. That is valuable real estate that would be more valuable doing something else. I feel the same way about this $1 billion in tax money that they want to give to an NFL team. One, that is not capitalism, that is not free markets, that is crony corporatist redistribution to a special interest, a wealthy special interest of taxpayer dollars. And every dollar that is given to them for this project is a dollar that could have been left in people's pockets to spend at their local businesses and support jobs and economic development there, or spent funding schools or police or something more meaningfully tangible to most people's lives than an NFL team. And the economic record of these benefits promised by these stadium deals is deeply suspect. As Reason reports, sports stadium subsidies are salient political gimmicks designed to appear as if politicians are providing tangible benefits to taxpayers, agreed Adam Hoffer, Joseph Johns, and Craig Depkin of the Tax Foundation. But the empirical evidence shows repeatedly that stadium subsidies fail to generate new tax revenue and new jobs or attract new businesses. So I actually think Trump should be blocking this deal, but just not because he wants to use the government to force a private team to rename itself, but because there's nothing America first or populist about allowing massive taxpayer subsidies to an NFL team. I'll close out this segment with a funny Trump tweet from 2013 when Obama first suggested that the Redskins maybe should consider changing their name. At the time, Trump wrote on Twitter, President should not be telling the Washington Redskins to change their name. Our country has far bigger problems. Focus on them, not nonsense. I gotta say, I agree with Trump, but Trump the first time, not Trump's current policy as president. What do you guys think? Do you disagree with me on this one? I definitely want to hear from you, so do let me know in the comments. I always take the time to read them and hear what you guys have to say. Can't read all of them anymore because our channel's grown, but I do read a lot of them. So do let me know. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you aren't yet. Do hit that like button while you're at it. Remember, you can listen to the Brad versus Everyone podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Take us with you on the go. Send me voice notes at the link in the description for my Voicemail Friday episodes where I react to your woke horror stories, your personal life scenarios, and answer any questions you guys have for me. And now, guys, we're going to talk about another free speech related Trump controversy, which, as you've probably heard, the Wall Street Journal recently reported on a Epstein related story alleging that Trump wrote a somewhat incriminating letter to Jeffrey Epstein years ago. The Trump team denies it. It's this big scandal. But Trump is now retaliating against the Wall Street Journal for their reporting. Take a listen to a summary of this story from Live Now's Andrew Kraft.
Trump versus the Wall Street Journal here. I just want to read this piece by Politico today. It was an exclusive to Politico. They say this: the White House is removing the Wall Street Journal from the pool of reporters covering the president's weekend trip to Scotland. Caroline Levitt confirmed that to Politico. They say the move follows the Journal's report alleging that President Trump sent a sexually suggestive message to Jeffrey Epstein in 2003. Trump has denied the existence of the letter, and Politico has said that they have not verified that very letter. So the White House reporter for the Wall Street Journal, their name Tarini Pardee, she'd been scheduled to serve as the print pool for the final 2 days of Trump's 4-day trip to his golf courses in Turnberry and Aberdeen, Scotland. But the White House, which earlier this year took over control of pool rotations from the White House Correspondents Association, removed her from the trip manifest, according to Levitt. And now the White House Correspondents Association president putting out this statement here, saying this attempt by the White House to punish a media outlet whose coverage it does not like is deeply troubling, and it defies the First Amendment. Government retaliation against news outlets based on the content of their reporting should concern all who value free speech and an independent media. We strongly urge the White House to restore the Wall Street Journal to its previous position in the pool and aboard Air Force One for the president's upcoming trip to Scotland. The White House Correspondents Association stands ready to work with the administration to find a quick resolution here.
So in response to this story, the Trump administration's retaliation against the Wall Street Journal has been condemned by the Nonpartisan Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, FIRE, where, disclaimer, I do a little bit of freelance work with them, but they wrote in a statement, White House is explicitly saying it can kick out of the press pool any publication that doesn't bow and scrape to the president's whims. This is nothing but a blanket confession that the administration is retaliating for news coverage that displeases the president, and it is not how freedom of the press works. I agree with this criticism of what the Trump administration is doing here. Maybe you think that the Wall Street Journal story is total BS, that it's fake, whatever, they got it wrong. Personally, I have my doubts about that because the Wall Street Journal is owned by Rupert Murdoch. It's like owned by the same people as Fox News. It has a more conservative editorial page. And yes, the news side has people who you could say are like liberal reporters, sure. But with a story this big, they would have reviewed this at the highest levels with their legal department, with their highest editors. And I think they really would have been aware of the fact that Trump will probably sue them over this story because he's sued other media outlets, in some cases successfully, over big stories that he doesn't like, that he says like defame or libel him or what have you. They would have been aware of that threat, especially given the massive settlements that other companies have had to make with him recently. And I don't think they would have approved this story if they weren't sure that it would hold up to scrutiny and to a lawsuit and what have you. I really don't. I could be wrong. I could absolutely be wrong about that. Maybe it is a trash story. Maybe it does fall apart. Maybe the lawsuit is successful in Trump's personal capacity. However, it really doesn't matter. Government retaliation against media outlets because they dislike their coverage is a violation of the First Amendment, is a violation of the freedom of the press. No, there is not a divine right to be in the White House press pool, but the qualifications and selections for who gets to do what are supposed to be neutral and are never supposed to be retaliatory. We saw this with the Associated Press not wanting to use the terminology Gulf of America, and then the Trump administration punished them for it. Even a Trump-appointed federal judge blasted them for that and said it violated the First Amendment. That case is currently working its way through the legal system. I personally am pretty confident the Trump administration will ultimately lose that case on First Amendment grounds. And if the Wall Street Journal challenges Trump on this, I think they will ultimately be successful as well, because this is not consistent. This kind of government retaliation for reporting with freedom of the press that's guaranteed by a First Amendment. And even if you are mad at the Associated Press, even if you're mad at the Wall Street Journal for their coverage and you support Trump, you still shouldn't support this, because trust me, if you can just set the precedent to punish media outlets like this, watch out. Fox News, Newsmax, One America News, every other right-leaning media outlet the next time a Democrat is president, because they will take this precedent and they will run with it. And they did not do this in the Biden administration anywhere near at this level. So I really object to this. I do think it is inconsistent with free speech and the freedom of the press. And I think the White House should get its crap together and stop picking fights with the media like this and take the high road, and then take it to court if you have to. If this truly is, if you've been defamed or what have you in your personal capacity, take that to court. But do not use the government, right? The White House press pool, access to reporting on one of America's biggest and most influential papers, reporting on the presidency, as a weapon to punish reporters who report things you don't like. That is genuinely something that has a chilling effect and is a massive abuse of power, in my view. But what do you guys think? Do you agree with this decision? Let me know in the comments. Up next, we're going to do a quick follow-up on the big story from yesterday that we talked about, which is the cancellation of Stephen Colbert's show on CBS, which many Democrats and progressives said was like fascist, censorship, whatever. In reality, it was because they were losing $40 million a year. And nobody gets to do that for very long in any sort of corporation where they're worried about making money before ultimately being canceled. And it was very telling to me, I talked about this on the show yesterday, that even when CNN spoke to insiders at CBS on background, anonymously rather, they still said, no, it's just financial. And these are liberals. These are people who work at a anti-Trump network. CBS is not a right-wing network, not a conservative network, not MAGA media by any stretch. They still, even anonymously, were like, no, it's not a political decision. But still, every Democrat and their mother, every liberal media figure was acting like this was some terrible act of censorship. It was not. But there was this little pathetic protest in New York City by a group that claims to resist fascism that we just have to look at some clips of, because it is downright comical, honestly.
The spirit of act up, the spirit of defiance, that is the spirit we need to carry with us. And I'm glad that Mark, right? Mark brought up the blowing of
I don't know how CBS will ever recover from like 100 angry white libs showing up with cardboard signs. Now, this was organized by a group called Refuse Fascism, and they posted CBS's cancellation of Colbert's Late Show is collaboration with fascism, calling all comedians, actors, and writers and those who care about justice speak out Monday, July 21, 4 p.m. at the Ed Sullivan Theater. That's the clips you just saw, their little protest. We refuse to be silenced and intimidated. So it's just kind of sad. It's just kind of laughable to me. They think this is fascism. They think getting fired for financial reasons when your show is losing $40 million a year is fascism. I mean, it's just like not. And you're watering down your criticism of the Trump administration, which, as I've talked about in this very episode, I do think has taken actions that are genuinely antagonistic towards the free press. But this isn't one of them. This whole thing is like a hallucinated narrative, and they really do think they're bravely resisting fascism, but in this case, they're just not. And I don't know that they realize how delusional and unreasonable and kind of like almost like they're cosplaying Hunger Games, like they want to be Katniss Ever or whatever, so bad, so hard, and they're just not. It's sad, it's pathetic, and it is sadly typical of some of the resistance tactics that we're seeing right now, which you would think that like a decade into this Trump phenomenon, people would start to get don't work. But if you think that, you would be wrong, because some of these people will never get it. What do you guys think? Do you find these protests or whatever, I feel like you're almost dignifying them by calling them that, these little public temper tantrums, do you find them as hilarious as I do? Let me know in the comments. All right, guys, that'll be it for today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Please do make sure to subscribe if you aren't yet. Do hit that like button before you go. Remember, send in your voice notes for our Voicemail Friday episodes. Thank you to Ground News for sponsoring today's episode. And with that, guys, we'll talk again real soon.